All right, the broadcast of the Charter Commission's Government Structure Work Group meeting for November 5th, 2020 will now begin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this virtual meeting of the Charter Commission's Government Structure Work Group. This meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota Statutes Section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. For the record, my name is Greg Abbott. I am one of the co-chairs of the Charter Commission's Government Structure Work Group. I now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Commissioner Ginder.
Present.
Commissioner Metschke.
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Clegg.
Here.
Co-chair Garcia.
Present.
Co-chair Abbott.
Present.
There are 6 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. We will now proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims.minneapolis.mn.gov. Commissioners, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Moved by Smith.
Second by Metschke.
All right. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll on adoption of the agenda? Not hearing any, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Ginder.
Aye.
Commissioner Metschke.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Clegg.
Aye.
Co-chair Garcia.
Aye.
Co-chair Abbott.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
Moving to the discussion on the agenda items, the next item on the agenda is the work plan and timeline. It's item 3, but it's really listed as item 4 in the agenda document. So the consideration of the work plan, we have been kicking this around a bit, and let me kind of describe a bit of what we're thinking about in terms of the work plan. We wanted to do some work on the history and the background of the city charter, which we did in our meeting of October 20th. We want to identify and adopt a values matrix to serve as criteria against which to evaluate any proposals for alternatives or options that may be recommended for charter amendments. And we hope to discuss that today. That's on our agenda for today, November 5th. We also are considering reviewing evaluations of select comparable jurisdictions as they may meet our values and priorities. That's going to be looking at other cities with comparable mayor-council structures. We've tentatively scheduled that for November 18th, which is a Wednesday, not the usual Tuesday group.
I didn't see that you texted that. I missed it.
We're having some crosstalk here. Can I
did not see that.
I'm getting that, Mr. Chair. I'm muting out Commissioner Kozak.
Thank you. The fourth element is assessment of the current structure and operations of the city as they relate to our values and priorities, as well as feedback compared to other jurisdictions. We have that tentatively scheduled for December 1st. Fifth would be based on the values and priorities we identify, the other comparable cities, and taking the survey data from our current stakeholders, considering alternatives that the work group believes would uphold these values and characteristics. So that meeting is tentatively scheduled for December 15th to look at alternatives. We are then considering having a panel of people. In addition to the survey, we would like to maybe have a panel with people who could provide firsthand testimony with respect to their experience and the structure of Minneapolis city government related to anything we're going on. We should have a final meeting where we should make a discussion of where all of this has taken us. We'll review drafts or prepare a preliminary position statement. That's tentatively scheduled for January 19th. And then lastly, we'll do a formal submission of a final report with any recommendations to the full Charter Commission, which we have tentatively scheduled for February 3rd. So we're obviously, all of this is a work in progress, and we're open to any discussions that people want to have about the possible work plan, any concerns about the contents. Let me pull up my calendar here. Our concerns about the timing. We want to make sure the dates work. I know that we've got Thanksgiving and the end of the year holidays to work around, so I don't want to, if people have some times where they're not going to be able to work on this, I think we can accommodate that at this point, given our schedule. Co-Chair Garcia, do you have anything to add to that? Did we lose?
She might be on mute. Commissioner Garcia, are you hearing us? You might be on mute.
Let me see here. She's
She's still in the meeting.
all right. If somebody could send her a note in the chat and see if she's somehow blocked from getting in here. But for anybody else, anybody have any comments on the contents or the time frame involved here?
I do not.
Oh, there we go.
I was frozen out for some reason, but I could see everything.
Okay. Do you have any comments to add to the discussion on the work plan, the timing or the content of it? I mean, and I should say I'm working from a document that you prepared, so I'd imagine that you find it to be a good plan. So, is there anything you want to add?
No, I think you covered it well.
Okay.
Okay,
go ahead. Commissioner Clegg, or Chair Clegg, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I'm a little concerned about the timing of the consideration of the survey. Given that we have to draft the survey, we have to get out whatever we're putting in writing, give people a reasonable period to answer that, and then assuming we do oral interview follow-ups, with all the people involved and everyone so busy, I'm sure it'll take a long time to get those scheduled. So we can leave it where it is, but I think we should be prepared to be flexible if we need to be as we move down the line.
I think that's a wise caveat, and certainly, certainly in a body like this, we're not putting any of this in stone. So I think we'll definitely be able to make some adjustments if that comes to pass. The schedule as we've proposed here is actually my initial goal was to get done in early January. We bumped it out about a month, I think, just to give us some flexibility around the holidays. And I think that's another good reason why we should. I'm glad we did that, just for the survey purposes as well. Is there any other comment on the work plan and the time frame? Let me ask our clerk, our esteemed clerk here. Should we adopt the work plan formally at this point, or should we type this up and then have it approved at the next meeting? Do you have a preference?
To me, Mr. Chair, I would suggest that if the work group is ready to adopt the plan now, we should go ahead and do that. It can always be amended and changed to meet the needs as the group goes forward. But at least this gives us some structure, and from not only the work group, from the public monitoring our work, it sort of sets that expectation of what will come forward at what point, and provides that outline of our work, both for ourselves and also for the public who are watching.
Great. Well, I will take a motion then to adopt the work plan and the time frame associated with it. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved, Clegg.
Second, Matchy.
Smith.
It's been moved and seconded on the work plan. And for those of you, it's been a copy of the draft work plan has been attached to the chat here in the meeting. I don't know if people have seen that, but is there any discussion on the work plan? It's been moved and seconded. Okay, in the absence of discussion, I would ask the clerk then to call the roll on the adoption of the work plan.
Commissioner Ginder, Commissioner Ginder. Commissioner Mecki.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Clegg.
Aye.
Commissioner Ginder. Co-Chair Garcia.
Aye.
Co-Chair Abbott.
Aye.
There are 5 ayes.
All right, our work plan has been adopted. We've got ourselves a structure, which makes, as a lawyer, I like structure. That makes me happy. So that will move us on to the next item on the agenda, which is a values matrix for proposals. One of the things that we have to do is evaluate alternative structures or proposals about how to change the charter. And Co-Chair Garcia, I think, raised this, and it's very appropriate, which is what values do we use to rank the possible alternatives? What problems are we trying to solve for? How does it fit into our matrix? And she has produced a document listing some values, which has been attached to the chat here by Mr. Carl. And I'll just read it a little bit because I think it's pretty short and it's pretty straightforward. The values matrix is designed to solve 4 problems. What do we value in an effective city structure? What characteristics illustrate an effective city governance structure? What are the advantages of our current structure? What are the barriers to our current structure? Or what are the disadvantages of our current structure? And there are several values we can consider in responding to those questions. Equity, responsiveness, accountability, effectiveness. We need to evaluate the foundation for accountability, such as simplicity, transparency, etc. And then, of course, the question of separation of powers, which I think is also part of transparency and accountability. I don't know that we need necessarily to adopt this document per se. I'm open to discussions about these values and how we should incorporate them into our decision making. If anybody wants to comment or add anything to that, I would appreciate it. All right. That's what we've got. Everyone's got a copy of the document. I think we should put that in our files, and as we proceed along, reference those as values. We don't have anything else on the agenda items at this point. I would just take and open it up for any other discussion or points that any of the work group members want to make. Co-Chair Garcia, do you have anything to add?
I do not right now. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Metchke has got her hand up.
Yes, I'm wondering if we have ideas of or suggestions for people for you to interview. Do I just email them to you and Commissioner Garcia, or how do you want that process to be, Commissioner Abbott?
I think and obviously Commissioner Garcia, you can correct me if you have a different perspective, but I think emailing us is fine. I would also include Chair Clegg in that email, since he's working with us on the survey. So if you just email the 3 of us, I think we can put together. I think we've got a kind of a list in mind, but I think we can definitely. We want to have a broad approach. I mean, obviously, we're not going to interview the entire city government, but I think that would be appropriate. So.
And can you again just overview what the purpose of the interviews and the hope for outcome are?
Well, we want people who are actually working in the current government structure to give us their view of what works well and what doesn't work. And we need to figure out what problems we're trying to solve, and what what good things that we should preserve. I think it's incumbent on us, before we propose any changes, to get some real feedback on what works and what doesn't work. We don't want to kind of blindly go in here and make changes without reference to the current structure. And we have a lot of, Minneapolis has some really excellent employees. There's a lot of good staff work that's done here. There's a lot of very smart people, I think, that can give us some feedback about, how the current structure works. If they had a wish list for things that would be better, I think I'd very much like to hear kind of the people who are actually working in this system, in this organization, to give us some feedback on what they think could work better, what improvements could be made. So I think that's our goal, and then kind of incorporate those comments and that feedback into whatever proposals we bring to the entire Charter Commission.
And as a follow-up, will the city clerk be involved with this? Because I would think that Casey is sort of the center of so much stuff that he might have a lot of great ideas.
We are talking to Casey about all of this. Yes, he's been included in these discussions. So
I would also add, in addition to what Co-Chair Abbott mentioned about the information we wish to gather, is also, is there something about the structure that people think inhibit innovation or inhibit being efficient that that can be improved as well?
Chair Clegg's got his hand up.
I would just also note what Casey posted in the chat, and that is our focus is not only current city officials, but also former. So there may be former department heads or former key city staff that it may be a good idea to interview as well. So.
Yep, I'm totally. I apologize if I wasn't clarifying that, but that's always been kind of part of the plan. Yes. So. Any other discussion? Is there anything we should be examining or looking at that we haven't discussed? There is no pride of authorship here. If any of you got any ideas, now's the time. Certainly send us an email if it occurs to you after the meeting. But
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry I didn't hit my hand feature soon enough. If I can get just a minute of your attention.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I just wanted to follow up. I know that you and Co-Chair Garcia and I have had the opportunity to also discuss sort of best practices and to follow up on what she mentioned, which I really appreciate and agree with, and that is sort of, are there components of the structure or systems that are dictated by the charter that inhibit or would prevent innovation, change, better partnership, better operations, more efficient and effective responsive governance. And to that extent, we've had a conversation, but just to clue in your colleagues, about the opportunity to possibly reach out to some other organizations that study government. So for example, the National League of Cities, the League of Minnesota Cities, and other good government types who have in the past studied Minneapolis and maybe who haven't studied Minneapolis specifically, but cities in general. And so bringing in that sort of larger perspective, more an academic perspective, as well as real world experience of governments like ours across the United States, how their structures and charters operate and how those pertain to opportunities for us. So that would nicely dovetail with some of the research I know that Commissioner Ginder has already done in terms of structure with comparable cities. So I just wanted to mention that we've talked about some of those other larger organizations that we could reach out to and benefit from.
Do we have a time frame on that? Some of that conversation I think will be useful at our next meeting on the 18th. So.
And Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm hopeful to finish up reaching out contacts to those organizations, which I started right before the election. And then there was this little thing that sort of took up some of my time this week. And I haven't had a chance to follow up on some of those initial phone conversations, but I both had email and phone conversations with those organizations that I mentioned. And I just need to reach back and connect. So it would be my goal that we have at least an initial response that we could share with the work group at that meeting, as you noted.
Very good.
I would like to just concur with the clerk and Chair Abbott that I think it would be, it's may not be considered a whole lot of fun for most people, but it would be nice to see if we can get some reports or studies and then share them on limbs prior to the meeting at which they're discussed to, so we can have a full and bit more robust conversation.
All right, I think that's good. I think we're looking at doing that. Let me get to the last call again. Are there any other comments or feedback on the operation of the work group, or anything we should be doing differently in the opinions of our members here? All right, given the completion of our agenda, I believe adjourning the meeting would be in order. And I think without objection, I'll just declare the meeting has concluded. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you, Casey, for your excellent help, and we will obviously be in contact. So thanks, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks.